Hello everyone, and thanks for coming back, and today we will be talking about Agile. So today we'll be answering the following questions. What is the Agile process? How do you plan and track work in Agile? How do you define an Agile product backlog item? What are the Agile workflow steps? So content for the next two sessions will come from, you guessed it, visualstudio.com. Overview for Visual Studio Team Services and TFS, and this is what the site looks like. Agile, defining Agile. What is Agile? The Agile process supports the following work item types to plan and track work, test feedback, and code review. These artifacts are created when you create a team project using the Agile process. They are based on Agile principles and values. Alright, so for Agile, for the portfolio backlog, we have the epic, followed by a feature. Within the product backlog, we have a user story and subsequent tasks. Also within the product backlog, we have a bug with subsequent tasks. All the issues are tracked by an issue. For the test plan, we have a test suite beneath our test plan, a test case beneath our test suite, and shared steps and shared parameters underneath our test case. For feedback, we have a feedback request and a feedback response. For code review, we have a code review request and a code review response. Plan and track work with Agile. You build your project plan by creating a backlog of user stories that represent the work you want to develop and ship. You track bugs, tasks, and blocking issues using the bug, task, and issue work item types. To support portfolio management, teams create features and epics to view a roll-up of user stories within or across teams. So you define your story and requirements, you create your backlog, prioritize your backlog, estimate your work, assign your work. Then you manage your portfolios, you add epics or features, group backlog items, then you manage bugs, capture bugs, triage bugs, resolve and close bugs, manage issues, then you capture your issues, track dependencies, and query issues. List work items with Agile. You can manage your workload more effectively by frequently reviewing the status of user stories and tasks. You can work with shared work item queries to list work items for current sprint or the product backlog. So you see you got a lot more shared queries here than you do with Scrum, and you get some troubleshooting queries as well. Agile product backlog item. Well, as you can tell, that the Agile product backlog item is a lot more busier than the Scrum one. So let's try to review a few things. So for the description, for user stories, provide enough detail for estimating how much work will be required to implement the story. For acceptance criteria, provide the criteria to be met before the bug or user story can be closed. For the value area, it can either be architectural or business, is business by default. For story points, estimate the amount of work required to complete a user story using a unit of measure your team prefers, such as t-shirt size, story points, or time. I use hours. Priority, accepted rating of the user story feature requirements as it relates to the business. So 1 is the most important, and basically 3 is the least important. Risk, a subjective rating of the relative uncertainty around the successful completion of a user story. Allowed values are 1, high, 2, medium, 3, or low. And then if you go over here, you can map everything that I talked about in the table to this Agile product backlog item. So it's a lot more complex, and CMMI is going to get even more complex, but we'll talk about that later. Agile workflow states. By updating the workflow, teams know which items are new, in progress, or completed. Most work item types support transition both forward and backward from each workflow state. These diagrams show the main progression and regression states of the user story, bug, and task work item types. Okay, so for our user story, we have a new user story. It's in the new state, then it goes to active, then it goes to resolved, and then it goes to close. If there's any kind of error, it'll go back to resolve, and then so forth. And a user story can also be removed. For a bug, it goes from new to active to resolve to closed. Now, once it's if it's unclosed for any reason, then it goes back to active. For a task, it goes from new to active to closed. If it's unclosed, it goes back to new. And again, if you want to remove a task, you can. But here, you cannot remove a bug. So pay close attention to that. So before you move any user stories or any tasks, be sure to talk to your product owner or to your Scrum Master. Agile workflow progression. A typical workflow progression for a user story is as follows. The product owner creates a user story in the new state and with the default reason new user story. The team updates the status to active when they decide to complete the work during the sprint. A user story is moved to resolve when the team has completed all of its associated tasks and unit tests for the story to pass. A user story is moved to closed state when the product owner agrees that the story has been implemented according to the acceptance criteria and acceptance tests have passed. Well, that's all that I have for now, and thanks for watching.